Borough Council duly open and ready for any business that may come before it.
Just executive session.
I do have one announcement. We did have an executive session before our regular meeting for a property matter.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the preliminary major subdivision and land development approval for Sora West. Mr. Peters, if you can just take that. Thank you.
Madam President and Council, you have before you tonight a resolution that my office prepared. The applicant is also here. I will first present the resolution to you, and then you can ask the applicant any questions, and they can provide anything additional that they would like to. The recommendation, or rather the resolution, is drafted to grant preliminary approval of land development for the Sora West project, which you are very familiar with. It was before you previously on multiple occasions, including for a conditional use approval. The approval is for the plan set most recently submitted to the Borough, along with drainage plans and the stormwater management report. As you know, the application is a two-phase unified development, 27,931 square footprint, 10-story parking garage, 27,670 square foot footprint office retail building, and a 14,159 square foot 13-story hotel and retail building, and the brew pub. There's also a public green space, and as you know, phase two would include a 22,873 square foot 10-story office building. The applicant has requested 6 waivers. I'll note before I get into them to council that the Planning Commission recommended approval of this project with the exception of the request for a waiver from section 22-405.1C for the sidewalks along Fayette Street. The applicant will confirm tonight that that request for a waiver has been withdrawn. So I have revised the resolution to remove that waiver request. The waivers requested are from section 22-401.A to permit a landlocked parcel as part of the development, 22-403.88 to permit the creation of a dead-end street, and that's caused by the vacation of a portion of Hector Street. Section 22-404.2B to permit a driveway of greater than 25 feet. That's the hotel driveway for the truck access and the internal loading dock. Section 22-405.1C, this is the requirement of 15-foot sidewalks in the SP4 district. As I indicated, the request for a waiver for Fayette Street has been withdrawn, but the waiver remains for Oak, Robinson, and First Avenue, 10.3 feet along Oak/Robinson and 12.8 feet along First Avenue. Section 22-421.4 to permit shade trees within the right-of-way, with the trees being planted a minimum of 5 feet inside the lot lines. And section 22-421.6C to permit a mounting height for pedestrian height of 14 feet instead of the maximum permitted 12 feet. The approval of council was inclined to grant it would be conditioned on several conditions that are set forth in the resolution. They include compliance with all of the ordinance of the Borough of Conshohocken as well as any other laws and regulations applicable in this jurisdiction. Condition number 2, the applicant shall revise the plan to comply with the review letters by your professionals, and those include the review letter of the Borough Engineer dated January 31st, 2018, the review letter of the Borough Zoning Officer dated January 23rd, 2018, the review letter of the Borough Traffic Engineer dated January 31st, 2018, and the review letter of your Fire Marshal dated January 31st, 2018. Condition number 3 requires the applicant to get all necessary approvals from third-party agencies, including PennDOT, the Conservation District, and DEP as required. Condition number 4, the applicant shall execute a stormwater operations and maintenance agreement acceptable to my office. Condition number 5, the applicant shall execute a land development and escrow agreement, again, satisfactory to my office. Condition number 6, the applicant shall satisfy any and all outstanding invoices with the Borough. Condition number 7, the applicant shall abide by all the terms and conditions as set forth in the resolution that I'm reading for you. Condition number 8, nothing in the approval grants any right to the applicant to commence construction. As you know, the applicant will be back before both the Planning Commission and you for final approval. And condition number 9, the applicant shall comply with the conditions of the decision and order dated May 17th, 2017. That was your conditional use decision granting the reduced parking. With that, those are the relevant terms of the resolution. The applicant is here. If council has specific questions for the applicant, we can start there, and they will respond.
Good evening, thank you for coming in.
Hi, good evening. Jennifer Wonder with Fox Rothschild on behalf of the applicant, Keystone Property Group. We have had a chance to review the resolution that Mr. Peters just read out loud, and we're accepting of the conditions that are in here. I just have a couple revision dates of the plan sheets that need to
Okay.
be revised that.
No problem, Jen.
Yeah,
No
I can go
problem.
over with you, but other than that, all of the conditions are acceptable to the applicant.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? No, I do have one. I'm wondering, why have you pushed off so many of the conditions to the final approval stage and not rectified them for the preliminary?
So there are certain conditions of the conditional use approval, is I'm assuming what you're speaking of. Some of those conditions deal with details regarding the parking garage and parking on the site. Those are items that will be further clarified as we go through to the final plan approval stage. Right now, we really need this preliminary approval to examine those items a little bit more, to shop for additional tenants, so that if anything needs to be revised for certain tenants, we can go through that in the final plan stage. So this is just the first step, knowing that we need to come back in front of both the Planning Commission and you as Borough Council to obtain the final plan approval once we've ironed out some of those details regarding the specific buildings, the parking garage, et cetera, on the plan. Anyone else?
Any questions?
Do you have an update on what the intersection of Fayette and West Elm will look like?
In terms of any of the improvements that are going to be done?
Yeah.
So we did present a traffic study to PennDOT, which included a number of improvements that has been reviewed and accepted by PennDOT. We haven't moved forward with the actual HOP permit application, but those improvements have been reviewed and approved by PennDOT. I can't speak to the exact improvements. Our traffic engineers in here, but they do require some improvements along the signaling. So I know some of the signaling will be changed, as well as the crosswalk on the south side of Fayette Street between on Elm, crossing Fayette. But there are a number of improvements that were discussed throughout the zoning portion of this project, and they have been approved by PennDOT and discussed, and will be further discussed at the final plan stage as well.
And there's supposed to be a walkway to the SEPTA station that's ADA compliant. Is there any update on that?
Again, that'll be finalized in the HOP process with PennDOT. We do have our engineer here, Carl St. Pierre, with Pannoni.
PennDOT's requiring us to improve all the ADA ramps or ADA curb ramps from our site to the SEPTA station. And that'll be condition of the HOP approval and will be done as part of the final condition. So basically, we have to put new ADA ramps in to make it accessible from our site down to the station.
Okay. So you'll keep us updated on that as it comes along?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we'll begin that process as soon as we obtain the preliminary approval. We'll move forward with the PennDOT process.
Okay.
But I think it's a little bit more than the ADA ramps, right? Because we talked about the idea of what we were giving. If we were looking at the credits for the space, the parking, so that we were going to really create that connection between the lower end and the railway station.
Mhm.
Is that still on target, that it's more than just curb ramps?
I mean, we're through the process of getting final plan approval. We'll be working to see exactly what we need to provide in order to meet those shared parking requirements and meet the conditions of the conditional use approval. So anything that's required in order to hit that shared parking target, will obviously.
So that's kind of a gentle reminder from me to you to make sure that that is a focus for your final plan, that that's something that we may grill you on a little bit more.
Understood.
Anyone else?
I just have one thing. This is more relative to Keystone in general. We've received a complaint from a current tenant that's in the building that's proposed to be knocked down. So is there direction that you can give to those tenants, or is there something that the borough should be, when we receive those questions or complaints, that we should tell your current tenants or direct them to someone in your organization that they can reach out to?
Sure, I mean, go ahead, Michael.
Michael Brookshire with Keystone. We're aware that the tenants have been notified to vacate the existing buildings within the terms of their current leases. So I hadn't been aware until today that someone had come to the borough with a complaint. So to the extent that that occurs, you should refer the tenant back to our team, back to me, to Rich Gottlieb, and we'll address it from there. I want to make it clear to the council members that the lease is a contract between a landlord and a tenant, and all of the leases that we've written in the buildings on this property, we've included a clause that allows us to relocate the tenants after a certain period of time. So it's all on the up and up. It's not, given that we understand that people might not expect it to happen, or might not have expected it to happen so soon. So I think that's what's occurred. We just want to lay the groundwork for being able to go forward with the development.
And as Keystone and the borough are good partners through multiple projects and processes, the objective would be to help them find space in our borough first before moving outside of our borough and offering up places in
Other
the neighboring
municipalities.
municipalities.
Completely understood. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if anyone on council is so inclined, I would need a motion to consider for the preliminary major subdivision and land development approval.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Anyone going to second that?
I'll second the resolution motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ron.
The next item on our agenda is to consider 219 Fayette Street zoning hearing board application.
Is Mr. Mazzucchelli here? If you can please come to the podium, please. Ms. Stetler had a personal obligation. She couldn't be here tonight. Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, Paul.
Hi. I'm Paul Mazzucchelli, and I'm going to be speaking on behalf of St. Matthew's on their application tonight for a new sign. Thank you for putting us on the agenda tonight. We're looking forward to this. As you all know, in the last 4 years, both boroughs have undergone a consolidation in the Catholic Church. It was a very painful thing to us, but we've really come across, Father Herron and the staff has done a great job bringing everybody together. You've seen a lot of great things happen in the parish with our new parish center. We took that old, tired, closed school building and gutted it, brought it up to code, made it state-of-the-art. We have a lot of things going on in there with meeting rooms, kitchens, our staff office, and of course, our school, which is open to everybody, not just parish members. We do for the parents in this community what they can't get at an extremely reasonable cost, okay? So now it's time to move on to new things, which of course is communication. And we all know that the borough's future and our future as a parish depend on the millennials and their children. We're all done. We're all dying off. It's time to turn into, we're very easy. We know what we have to do. We go to church, we donate, we do what we donate our time. But to the millennials, and being in real estate, I have to deal with this on a daily basis. It is a whole different item, and communication is the big thing. And we have been after Father for several years to get a new sign to replace that old dilapidated sign that you have to actually be stopped at the traffic light to even look at. So we have, and I believe you have copies of what it looks like. A lot of thought went into it. It is not an inexpensive proposition. It will match the building gorgeous. It's placed both sides. You're going to be able to see it from both ends of Fayette Street. Because of that, it should not cause any trouble with traffic flow. You won't, since speed limit's 25 anyway, you won't have to slow down to read it because you'll be able to see it all the way at the bottom, and you'll still be able to see it up top. It will be facing the opposite way, so we're going to see it from both sides. The messages that are going to be on there, of course, because we're not a business, so we're not selling a product other than salvation. Father? Yeah. Other than parish messages, of course, there's going to be things going, the community events that we're involved in, that people are involved in, you know, the Easter egg hunt, blood drives, flea markets, and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be internet-based from our offices, so, you know, we're going to be able to change it, like in seconds, type it in. So, you know, we're hoping that when we go to zoning on Monday night, we're going to be able to get approval on this very quickly. We're ready to go. Money's in place. We really wanted it for Christmas, but we'll take it for the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Paul, is it a 24/7 sign? So it would stay illuminated 24/7?
Will we? Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be there 24 hours a day and, you know, whatever's on there. But, you know, it's, if you look at it, the top won't be as, it's basically going to be the scrolling stuff that you're going to be seeing. Any other questions?
This is.
Well, by scrolling, it's animated. It goes this way.
So it's like our sign.
So the St.
Right.
Matthew Parish community
That's
is not,
permanent.
that's
permanent.
stationary.
Right.
And then the banner below it is what is the animation.
Right. Where you see where we have in there Easter,
Right.
Right.
that's going to be what's animated.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And you know what, we can all be a little jealous of Father Heron, who got to go to the Super Bowl and was in like a box. Right?
Deluxe box.
Deluxe.
Yard line.
Yeah.
And when the Eagles scored, my cup lit up green for 2 minutes. And when the Patriots went ahead, the seat that I was sitting in
Vibrated.
started to massage my back. Very, very comfortable. It was like Conshohocken, but only out in the U.S.
So if council is inclined, you would need to make a motion to send a recommendation or a non-recommendation to the zoning hearing board.
I will make that recommendation.
And I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, because that's.
The next item on our agenda is Mr.
Carl, before you jump to the next item, can we pull our sign ordinance as one of the things that we'll be working on over the next few months? Because I think that we're behind in our sign ordinance with what our technology is now.
Right.
Right.
That's
Thanks,
good-
Steph.
That's a good question, because we have to change that.
Right.
Because Chris Stetler's telling
Okay, now?
people they can't put their signs on.
Right.
Right.
I think we had the discussion last meeting that that was one of the things we were going to move forward on and put to the front.
Perfect.
So the next item on our agenda is Mr. Pugelli from Brown and Brown. Or our renewal options for insurance.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. Does everybody have electronic or hard copy of this?
They do, it's in their binder. Yes.
We're good? Okay. Okay, so tonight is this interim status report. And I guess the best way to describe it is so far so good. As you can see by looking at the comparison to what you were paying last year to this year, there is a substantial reduction so far. But perhaps the better news is that we are awaiting, you could also see down below some of the other places we went to and the outcome of that. And we have one other option that could really be a significant savings. And the way it would work on that option is it wouldn't be all the insurances with one company. It would be the workers' comp with one company and all the other policies with another. And so we have all the other quote already, but it's for all intents and purposes, it's useless until we get that other workers' comp option. I fully expect to have that by the end of the week. You will have it for your next meeting with our recommendation. I can tell you that coverage-wise, workers' comp actually is the easiest to compare because the benefits are statutory by nature, and so everybody who quotes it has to quote the same benefits. The only differences could be, one company's a little better in servicing and claims and things like that. But so that's really easy. On the package side, well, we do that all day, every day anyway, and we would see no reduction, if not possibly even improvements in coverage. And just to give you a little idea, we did get one optional package quote that is actually is higher than the traveler's renewal and the traveler's price last year. So it's probably about 20 grand higher than that. So that's really not a viable option. But we did get that option. And we did have one company already decline. It was a company that did cover the borough a number of years ago. Now, I will tell you that we have worked very, very hard on this. And it was just yesterday, Steph and I were exchanging emails about trying to improve the claim picture for that one particular company to go back to them. And because there were some issues, I don't know if we want to get into that now but there were some issues about things they were looking for. And I had a very good conversation with staff. And there's optimism that maybe they'll change their position on that. So our plan is, this is what we have so far. It's good. It's all moving in the right direction. Our plan is to get that other quote, because if for no other reason, it's going to give us leverage to go back to travelers, if for no other reason. So we want to give them a little bit of competition. And we could even go back to some of the other companies as well. So pretty much right now, this is where it stands. I am very optimistic about getting that other quote, and it might be pretty exciting in terms of the number. So I guess I got to play that safe right now. I don't want to go on public record about what that might be, but I feel really, really good about that, and it's been good working with staff.
So just a few clarifying points, bullets. The current savings off of the expiring package to what you are today presenting is in the ballpark of $50,000. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
How many?
50,000. 50. There's also a savings of approximately $4,500 in terms of the expiring commission.
Yeah, actually, that
the
would be
net fee.
included in the 50. If you just look at because both of those figures include
Right.
the commission, so
Overall $50,000 savings.
of which
approximately.
4,500 is the fee alone.
Okay. This is a preliminary. We're continuing to work through the process.
Well, these you would consider worst case, because these numbers are solid. We have these numbers. The only place that these numbers are going to go are down. So if we get a better quote from somebody else, we can go back to travelers, see what they want to do. I mean, it may, I don't know, I can't, I've been around this a lot, and so sometimes they just actually can't, they just say, we can't do anything with that. And so I don't know, but generally speaking, when you have another quote and you go back to them, we might see some relief.
And can you confirm that the borough would be receiving the same level of coverage in all categories?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, for argument's sake, if you stay with travelers, you have all the same coverages, and then what you're going to get is the services that we have offered and have done in the past that was in our RFP response.
So moving forward, this is a preliminary update. You'll be back on the 21st with packages to present, different options, or potentially one option with a recommendation. And then from council's perspective, and Mr. Pugelli, I've kept you up to date on this as well. We're continuing to work with Divot. But we are moving towards, and we need to set a renewal by March 31st for our April 1st date. So
one week from tonight is pretty
we're keeping Paul on his toes, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
that's good. I'm used to that.
Could I just ask an educational question for myself? When we have special events where our community comes together, What part of the coverage covers if something happens to a community member based on
Yeah, very
an
good
issue?
question. And we certainly have had those here and everywhere else that we insure municipalities. So most of that is all going to be covered under your general liability policy. To the extent that you have police there could be some coverages that might be covered if something involved the police officers. So there could be some overlap with that. The only thing that we always ask, and we go through the applications and say, what are you planning to do? Because there are certain types of things that the insurance company may not feel comfortable with, and they might say, well, you got to get the vendor for a moon bounce or like some have had, little abbreviated zip lines and bull rides. I'm not necessarily recommending or suggesting that. I'm just saying that we've had people do those kinds of things. And so the coverage usually comes from the vendor and adds the borough's additional insured. So we go through those item by item and see if there's anything that really, bungee jumping would probably be a flat out no, that kind of thing. But I haven't seen anything that you guys are doing that we couldn't get covered.
Okay.
But that's where we covered on general liability.
So under general liability is where that falls. Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Okay,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
all your efforts today.
So just to conclude, my plan is actually to get with you either Friday or Monday and say, this is what we have.
Yep.
And this is what we recommend, then you and I can talk it out, and then
Perfect.
we'll go from there on the meeting.
Sounds
So,
good.
okay?
Thank you very much.
All righty. Have a great evening.
The next item on our agenda is the project status update on Marywood Park House and the Community Center facility assessments from Seller and Drury Architects.
Thanks, Brittany.
No problem.
Great. Pleasure to be
Evening.
here. My name's Doug Seiler. This is Rich Powers. We're going to talk to you tonight about Marywood Park House and the Community Center. We've been pretty active on it since we last presented to you, where we outlined the process. So this is really, for some of you, your first glimpse at where we've gotten to.
So I'm not to interject, but just before we get off, I just want to remind council that we have set a time limit for this, so you have approximately, I know you said you were going to combine them
absolutely.
both, so
Yeah.
we'll give you about 20 minutes, so it gives
Yeah.
them time for question and answer.
Good. If you could,
Okay.
if you would
I
mind being
will.
the timekeeper.
I'll
I'd
be that
say
timekeeper.
8 or 9 minutes, just give me a
I'll
wave.
give you a little wave.
So I can pass it
Okay.
off to Rich.
All right, thanks.
So we, as a process, have met with stakeholder groups that are involved with both facilities. We have a steering committee we've been meeting with regularly. We've met with Ike, Jane, and Colleen on really the park and the park house, but we've talked broadly about both. Both projects are going through the same process. We expect to be back before you early May, like May 2nd, I believe, for a final report. Our next step after this, if you like the direction it's going, will be to develop multiple options and sort of pricing categories per the RFP, if you remember. We'll work those out with the steering committee, start cost estimating them. So when we come back to you in May, it'll be essentially the designs that's developed tonight with your comments, with costs and options for you to go forward in deciding how you're going to implement this. So I'll just jump right in. I'm going to talk about Marywood Park House first. We have a PDF copy, which we got to Brittany. I don't know if you've distributed that or if you're able to. I have one hard copy tonight, which I'll leave with you. Essentially, at the house, we're looking at 3 categories of approaching it. There's just basic repairs, maintenance on the exterior, and then there's a large historic component to the house. I'll probably go through these rather than having you imagine it in your minds by going through plans and drawings, so you'll sort of see these categories happen as I walk you through the plan. But in the historic restoration portion, this is a drone photo we took of the house, and I do have a little, what to do with it? Laser pointer here, which if I didn't have a hole in my pocket, I would have found it a lot faster. I don't think it's going to show up, but essentially, I'm going to point to this. The original house, 1840s or so, is here. It was 2 stories with an attic. When the Woods took over in 1879, they built the front, the tower, and they changed the appearance of the gables on the ends, and they built a porch. And essentially, from a preservation point of view, we're proposing to bring portions of the house back, the interior woodwork and the gables back to that period. The original house has, as you all know, terracotta tiles on, or the 1879 edition. They may or may not have been on this, it's hard to tell. This has a portion of metal roof. We think originally it was metal, and it probably has had asphalt on it. We're proposing to go back with alternates. Probably metal is the solution here. The windows have all been changed out with vinyl replacement windows, and we're proposing over time perhaps you'll have costing for that. Ideally, at least in the 1879 sort of historic rooms, they come back to true restored windows, rebuilding the porch. So I'm going to take you through that without making you imagine too much. Part of our process with the drone was to get good details so you can see, you know, the deterioration. So a fair amount of the work is repairing rot, deteriorations. These happen on the front. You have those stained glass units, which will be nice to bring back. We'll do a couple alternates on the roof. One is repair it, which is probably my least favorite choice. The second one is take the tiles off, waterproof it, reflash all the valleys and everything, put them back, and with some replacements to match. You can still have those tiles made. They're beautiful terracotta tiles. Here's a plan of the existing building. The main features to remember, most of you probably know it, is there's an exhibit room, there's a multi-purpose room, and there's a residence in the back, which is 3 stories right now, first, second, maybe just 2 stories. And they have some storage in the 3rd floor attic. There's a fire escape and kind of a handicapped access over there on the back side towards the Fells building. I'm going to linger on this plan a bit. This is the proposed plan. It kind of shows all the features that were on that list. Some of it's responding to life safety or code requirements for bathrooms or desirability for accessibility. We're proposing to make the building accessible to the 2nd floor, in large part because there's historical society offices and exhibit rooms up there. There are public functions. Some of those volunteers and the guests could be handicapped or just it's awkward for them to get up there. And essentially the 1st floor, keep the multi-purpose room, 2 exhibit rooms, both of which have beautiful woodwork. The woodwork in these rooms to be brought back to the natural wood finish. It's now painted wood. Add a accessible elevator in this corner, which is accessible from the outside, so we don't have to have all that ramping. I don't know about you, but most people, when you have too many switchbacks, you tend to not use them. In here is a little existing pantry area, the main stairs up, basement stairs down. I think probably the biggest maybe proposed change, and this is just looking at how to use the square footage that we have, we're proposing to eliminate the residence as a function in this property. There's a couple of reasons for it, one of which is life safety. A residence and an assembly use, which is what this building is, they're kind of separated on the life safety scale. Like, you don't want a smoldering cigarette or vice versa between one because they're occupied at different hours. So to give you bathrooms, to give you a kitchen area and storage for all the stuff that's now just dumped in corners around there, we feel you need every inch of this building to serve the public. We're essentially not changing primary functions. 1 exhibit room, 1 multi-purpose room, a new exhibit room, accessibility, and then kitchen and adequate level of bathrooms. Existing 2nd floor is the apartment, historic commission office, 2 exhibit rooms, and this beautiful space here, which is the bay that overlooks the park, has 2 little pretty dismal, non-accessible toilet rooms in it. The proposed use, working with the steering committee and stakeholders, historic commission office, hope you can all see back there, 2 exhibit rooms, a new handicap bathroom here where there's some closets and there's an old bathroom that was through there so that you don't have to go up a half a flight or whatever to get to these spaces. It's on the accessible path. The way the elevator will work, this room won't be locked, it'll be exhibition, but you'll exit through it to get to the fire escape, which is for this size building, this view is perfectly okay. The big change, besides the residential part leaving, is the idea that you take this portion, the front portion of the residence, and make it what we're calling, as a working term from our groups, a bridal suite. It's really a multifunctional space using the bathroom that's in the residence now, with a shower rather than a tub, as something that could serve functions in the space, whether it's, you know, a wedding, which I'll show you a potential use for how it could be downstairs, any kind of large function that comes out on the porch or into the park. It really came out of the steering committee discussions as an important part to really make this, you know, a multi-purpose facility. The other big change is the building's been modified. I don't have pictures of every facade for you tonight, but from here back and all around to that corner has been stuccoed over the years. It's a pretty bad way to treat a building. It changes the character dramatically. I'll talk about that in a later slide. But this portion back here originally was a one-story addition. So we're actually proposing to take volume away, take out the second floor at this back portion. You don't need the space. It has a travel distance issue getting all the way back there. So long story short, we're actually reducing the volume on the second floor because it's not doing any favors. That's good, I'm almost done here. Third floor, existing Art League space, Historic Commission storage, apartment storage. We're proposing to make this Historic Commission storage. The Art League will take over both rooms, still teach in here. This is a support space for cleaning up, for storage, for that kind of stuff. Basement, we're organizing the storage. The big thing down here for life safety reasons is a second way out. You can't really count Bilco doors in a public building for egress. This shows you, I don't know if you can read it, the roofs lift off the second floor. Multi-purpose, if you had a banquet in there, exhibit, elevator, exhibit, porch, coats, bathrooms, kitchen. We have developed technical drawings of it, so this is from Fifth, right? Fifth Street, looking at the front. From the park, there's the porch, or the bay window, the porch going along. These were technical drawings. But this is actually what we're proposing it'll look like. It's a historically detailed, 19th century appropriate for the house porch. Bring back the heavy timbering or the half timbering in lieu of the stucco, and sidewalks and plantings that overlook the park. I think we're done on our portion. Rich, if you jump up and do a similar on the community center.
Sure, I didn't know if you wanted to do questions.
Do you want to ask questions? Stephanie, should we consider questions on Marywood Park House now, or do you want us to? Okay.
Nice to be back in front of you all again. I've been handling the community center portion of the project, so I'll run through kind of what is similar to what Doug did with the house with the community center. So, what I wanted to do was identify the different sections and the different potential work areas that we would like to propose for interventions at the community center in order for us to bring it up to a more usable and flexible space. So I've listed these in kind of order of magnitude, so doing the most work, say in the program wing, and I'll go through all these with you. Program wing, which we'll be considering over here. So this is existing plan, obviously gymnasium. This is what we're going to transform into the program wing. Presently it's the fitness room, the mint green small program room, a little bit of storage, again lobby, admin, the large open area in the middle, the group fitness room, which as it exists now, the locker room, and the multi-purpose room. So that's existing plan. This is moving towards our proposed plan, so it kind of labels these areas as my list is labeled. So program wing would be what we call this area over here. So our thought here was to transform this into more usable, flexible space, larger space that you can program with more activities. Gymnasium stays mostly the same, and I'll go through these all in a little more detail as I get further through. We're implementing or proposing moving fitness from the smaller cramped space over here into the open area in the middle, kind of a freestanding room for such. Locker room and multi-purpose. Again, don't change shape, but we are doing some work there. So I'll get into the program room first. It's where most intervention is going to be happening. So right now, we have fitness occupies one space. So we want to blow all that out, and we want to make this solely attributed to or usable for programs and flexible. So major interventions here. We're taking away, blowing big holes in the masonry, which will require structure, both here and here. And that'll let us be able to open this room all the way up. So we can use it from what was the existing building or the existing rooms, all three of them we can use at once. I'm considering the existing conference room, that's off the admin room, which is kind of a catch-all at the moment. What we want to do is kind of turn that to the public side a little bit. So now we have an additional space which we can use, which I'll get into a little bit more. So lounge here is great. I mean, that's what we consider quiet lounge, and we put new furniture, plug-in furniture. I think we're in the age where we plug everything in. So I'll start over here, media room, which we're calling this media nook. So we wanted to create kind of a space where it was aside from a programmed room. Many of these could be used for meetings, lectures, things like that. I'll get through it. But we also wanted to create a nook where you can have a couple screens. You can have the kids come in. It's not really programmed as a meeting would be, but it could be a space where there's screens on the wall. We can watch screens. We can play games, play video games. But it's a different kind of a space which is not available now. So I want to flip through kind of how we see this thing being used. So this is kind of a quick study of how the space could be used, overhead shot. This is depicting, three different activities at once. So currently in the building we have a before school, after school program. So quite possibly if that moves forward as a program in the building, that could occupy one space and it could be totally sanctioned off from the rest of the program area, simultaneously used again. There's pictures throughout. These are just kind of mused pictures, examples of what things might look like. Accordion door, large open bright space, maybe a nod back to some historic things on how we decorate the place. One of the other things that I was going to propose here was, this may be the nice meeting room, the bigger nice meeting room. So there's currently two small single windows here. The proposal to bring that into a big opening might be good for that room. And then here's some other options of how these spaces could be appropriated. So yoga class, possibly a birthday room. Again, just different ways to use the space. It could all be open to have bingo night in here as opposed to into the multi-purpose room, which may be more appropriate for acoustics for such an event. But again, it's flexible space. It's not programmed now, but it could be programmed with whatever programs seem to fit at the time. So that's the program wing. The fitness center. So again, this is the big open space, which is kind of underutilized as it is. The overlook into the gym, the windows into the office space, and multi-purpose is this way. The group fitness room is there. It's an odd shape. It's tough to manipulate too much. So I think in conjunction with adding a fitness center that's freestanding in the middle of the open space, that group fitness space, whether it's a tenant or whether it's run by the community center itself, stays the way it is, grossly the way it is. It has new lighting. We might look at upgrading the floor. But as it is, I think it stays shape-wise. As I said, we're adding a fitness center into the middle. And as area goes, the existing fitness area is about 1,200 square feet. This would be 1,500 square feet, so we're adding 20%, but we're also taking a wall out of the middle too, so it's a lot more usable space in the middle. One thing we did want to do was kind of preserve that overlook into the gym.
That was my question. Is there room for seating in that space?
In here?
Right.
Well, I envision when,
I don't necessarily mean permanent seating, but
this is about 8 feet, so there could be room for 2 rows-ish.
okay.
But I think one of the things that we also wanted to think about while putting this all together was, while we did want to preserve this and understand why we're preserving it to see what's going on in the gym, implement digital media through the building. So there'd be screens kind of throughout, maybe in the media nook here, that could serve as a viewing platform into the gym that we are kind of taking away a little bit of by adding
I
this.
think the short answer,
What-
Colleen, is there are 2 or 3 places where we do see distinct seating. One portion could be up here, benches, so people can come in and out of the gym easily. Along here, even booth-type seating, so if older people want to play
Yes, but
checkers
you're
or
aware when we use the gym, there is no seating.
something. I said bleacher-type seating, you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
Colleen, there is if you look at where the fitness center is and where
Uh-huh.
the wall is, that is all open space. So yes, we are retaining spaces where you can put chairs, where people can do
That's all I'm
overflow
asking.
seating. Yes.
Yes, okay.
And still look into the gym.
Variety of
That's all.
seating is the
Yep.
important thing.
Especially for the Donna Frio.
It's also for the parents for special needs.
That's correct.
Right. So yes, we preserve the overlook there.
That's what I'm
And while we,
asking.
decrease the width that's available for
Right.
seating there, but there's still ample for at least 2
Right.
rows of chairs if we wanted to do it that way. Certainly standing room is available. The locker rooms there are in need of some repair, to put it lightly. So what we're proposing is basically, as an option one, as a most evasive type action, would be to rebuild the entire block of showers. And what that'll allow us to do, existing now is the janitor's closet there, so we would engulf that. So what that would allow us to do is not only get a fully accessible handicap stall here, but for each of the showers, have a line of curtain, so we have a changing area inside the shower proper, as opposed to now where the shower units basically open out into the block. So it'll create showers that are more used probably. Obviously, we're cleaning up all the finishes in here. Taking out all the smaller lockers, replacing them with taller ones, that seemed to be a consensus need for the space. There's many lockers in there now, it doesn't need to be as many, none are really used. So going back and putting seating, putting an area for grooming, a grooming type station in both men's and women's, wholly leaving the fixtures and the vanities as is. As part of the locker room work, basically we're refinishing the whole thing. New flooring to ceramic, which is an appropriate material for such. We laminate all the walls that are currently CMU with drywall.
You're getting close on your time.
A little more inviting
Okay.
of the space. So it's a total redo of the lockers. The step down would be to not engulf the janitor's closet, so we'll propose both to get costs for both. The lobby, really not changing anything in the lobby physically, other than the doors that go to the multi-purpose room we'll use as exit only, and what that allows us to do is have a secure control point to enter the facility. So how we get around that to get to the multi-purpose room is we'll blow through the existing coat closet that's there. So access to the multi-purpose room is only through here, and frankly, to the rest of the facility is through one point. So there's one check-in point. You can't just wander in, as what happens now. And again, examples on the right, digital board that you'll see as we get a little farther. So this is kind of our thought of what it might look like in here. New finishes, obviously, new flooring. I think it's important to put some digital information board, an opportunity to have to get rid of our whiteboards. Exit only into the multi-purpose room. Freshen up what's happening at the reception area. Not really changing shape, just kind of refinishing. Giving the underside of the deck some paint. branding a little bit with the borough.
Now, is that a paint-on, or is that
This?
just an image?
This might be a vinyl decal, some kind of wall covering of some sort. Another thing that happens in this lobby, it's such a big volume that the acoustics are not the greatest in there.
Right.
So we want to treat kind of the walls with some acoustic treatments to kind of bring down the echo down there. So this is kind of what the first entry into the space would be. It kind of sets the tone for what the rest of the facility might look like. Bring it out of what it is now and, you know, from the beginning of 2000s to now. Multi-purpose room, basically giving a little bit of a facelift, new flooring similar to what's there now, padding the entire surround, the perimeter of the gym here, implementing a roll down or a fold down curtain. That'll give the opportunity to use both sides of the multi-purpose room at once. New flooring, roll down, yeah. Oh, another kind of line item that was a wish list type thing is to poke through into the existing storage area, the existing garage that's off the back. So you don't have to go outside and in. So we'll poke through, get down some steps, and make that a little more used storage for what's inside as opposed to having to go outside. This is kind of what the flooring might look like. It's kind of just a graphic. Community center, you know, I think we want some fun type finishes. Gives us a chance to do some different floor finishes. But one thing we wanted to do was take all the carpet out of the facility for obvious reasons. So again, padded multi-purpose, kind of a rubber gym flooring, similar to what's in the fitness room now. Ceramic tiles in the lockers, kind of a porcelain tile similar to what's in the lobby here for the lobby and reception area. I'm thinking this is more of a vinyl, would look vinyl tile that has the ability to change from a standard glue down to like a padded type thing, so we can put that in the program rooms for yoga class and things like that. And then the rest would be kind of like a linoleum type sheet flooring, non-directional, so it's just kind of color on the floor, appropriate for this kind of space.
Thanks, Rich.
Yep.
Wrap it up.
Question, Rich.
Yes.
You went through the whole scope of the facility, but the kitchen. Kitchen's a big part of this operation with the
Yeah.
Donna Frio and,
It's too small.
So the kitchen, basically what we're doing to the kitchen is giving it a facelift.
commercial. You're gonna make it commercial
Well,
with a venting system. It's gonna be code, anyway, it has to be code.
I think that's a talking point that maybe you feedback through the steering committee on whether, you know, it's a smallish space. One could be put in there, a true range hood with vented could be put in there. I don't think there's a code reason against it. That's just straight direction we need from the borough on what you want.
So Bob, from
We're not showing it.
an administrative perspective, and from the feedback that we got from the focus groups, is moving more towards just a warming kitchen, so not a full-blown commercial kitchen. So removing a full oven, removing a stovetop. We don't really want cooking happening there. So for the Donna Frio, for example, they would use sternos or the hot dog maker, or if I'm evaluating everything that happens in there, we don't really want a rental to be in there and cooking per se, maybe heating their food. But for the Donna Frio, for the snack stand, they're not really cooking anything, they're bringing
It's
food
all hot
in.
dogs and all, but it's
Right.
a big, it's a
Right,
big
so
part.
it would be
It's a big part of the fellowship.
Exactly. So it wouldn't be a commercial kitchen. It would be a facelift area that would be a landing place for food prep and the sale of food, or the use of a birthday party, for example. If they want to bring in a cake, and if they're bringing in a caterer, they can set up their food in there.
Will still be okay for all our dinners for the seniors?
That's correct. So the majority of that food is donated. So it's deploying methods that would keep that food warm and ready to be served
Okay.
without the oven.
So it would be similar to what we're going to put in at Marywood Park House, a
Correct.
catering kitchen?
Yep.
It's actually a landlocked space. It's got a utility room to the one side and a bathroom to the It's hard to expand. It is small. If it was treated as a commercial kitchen, I think, Rich, would have to have a triple bowl sink in it, wouldn't you imagine?
Triple bowl sink,
So-
standalone ventilation, yeah.
So it's an issue, I agree.
So I think at this time, it would be appropriate for council to ask any questions relative to what they've seen in the presentation for Marywood. We'll start with Marywood Park House.
Marywood Park Historical Register, was that ever on the, do you know? Was ever on the register?
It's eligible, Bob, but we're not on it because then every change we make would probably cost 4 to 5 times more.
Right,
That's
so,
why,
So-
that's why the vinyl windows are in there.
Right,
right,
right.
It should never be put in there.
correct.
But
But
people did the best
if
they
you're gonna
could
spend
in the
money, you
past
might as well
with,
do it right and make it
Correct.
historical.
exactly, that's what we
It
think.
could be that you do it in stages, like the
Right.
main two facades are more critical perhaps than the back facades.
But you're
but-
defeating the purpose. If it's gonna be a historical site for the borough, and you're gonna take people in there to see historical things, you want the outside to look historic.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, yeah.
Right, and I think what he's suggesting is like the front windows,
Yeah.
we do first,
Yes.
because that's where it's the most
Take the vinyl
visible.
windows out,
Yes.
put this-
Right.
And we still have the stained glass in the basement for the other ones, so we have all that.
So it doesn't matter what changes we make on the inside, correct?
To
As far as
historic
historical?
people. Yeah, you really, it's more of a sticks and carrot approach. You really don't have anybody really telling you what you can't do. But it, typically, historic commissions care about the exterior.
Okay.
If you had a public grant, like a Section 106 type public grant, they would care about the interior. But there's nothing we're doing everything we're doing is in the right direction.
Can you pull up your pricing groups for Marywood Park?
Sure.
So the point of the conversation tonight is, we've gone through an evaluation of each facility. Clearly, they've done a ton of work to get you to a point where they're providing you with a potential product. We've also asked that they itemize projects that you potentially would consider. So this project scope is listed here and it's itemized, and the next step in this is to actually decide, you want to see prices on everything on this list? Do you want to remove certain things on this list? Do you want to add anything to this list? Because the way we drafted the RFP is those items are going to be itemized to give you the opportunity to decide you either want to do the whole project or you want to do pieces of that project when you're factoring in finances and
Right.
centennial celebrations and timing and construction and whatnot. So if we can just quickly go through that list, and then if they have any questions.
Well, you actually might have a little more flexibility than this list even implies, because the cost estimate will take all the features of it and will have cost. So for instance, windows, we'll always kind of know a per window cost, so exterior, there are certain things that you really kind of have to do, like repairing rotten wood and all on the exterior. The roof will have a couple options to repair, the total upgrade, and then replace the shingles with metal type things. Site upgrades are things like, there's a couple monuments at your existing or your old town hall, we're moving those there. I probably should have showed you where they're going, but when you study your packet, you'll see it. It's sidewalks, things like that. The historic improvements kind of is some on the exterior, like getting rid of the modern stucco and putting the half timbering back. That could stay stucco for a while. It's a pretty big, I would recommend against it, but we can identify that cost. Inside, Stephanie, it'll really be per room kind of, like that main, like I think you fight for the most public rooms on the first floor first. That main multi-purpose room, bringing that back to the paint off the woodwork, perhaps getting the maple flooring off the floor. Those are things I'd fight for. I'll have a number for both, The rear addition will have a number for that, restoring windows, restoring roofs, half timbering. The porch, I think, where did we stand? We did a package for a grant for that, but did we put a cost estimate on that, do you remember?
You did.
I think you put sort of an architect's
The numbers,
number.
not on the top of my head, but.
The cost estimator will give us more detail on that. Inside, an elevator, it is an option. HVAC, we're proposing to use the existing boiler system, which is pretty modern, and the radiation, which is nice in an uninsulated stone house, on the upper floors. But on the first floors, it looks historic like it did when the Woods were there, with a new system in the basement. So that's a hybrid approach. Access control, again, we can break that down to some of the categories throughout the building, but that's pretty much required. Sprinkler, I think you have to do no matter what with the uses we're talking about. Kitchen, somewhat an optional. Bathrooms, you need toilets in that building, so you kind of can't get away from that one. Basement upgrades, again, is discretionary. There could be a few others that'll come naturally out of the cost estimates. What I envisioned is, if we sort of are in generally the right direction, we get it documented for cost estimating, we sit with the steering committee and say, how can we parse this that might be useful to you, maybe give you more choices rather than less would be my choice. Maybe that's bad, maybe you don't want such a big Chinese menu, but essentially it'll be like a menu. And then at some point when you set your budgets going forward, 1999, 2000, you'll choose from that and say we're going to focus on the exterior or the first floor or the life safety or the maintenance. You can decide. That's the idea. Is that what you had in mind?
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It looks
So,
wonderful.
so the next steps are getting some pricing on these various bullet points. For our perspective, the money that we have allocated for this year is for all of the work that this company is doing, not for any of the work on the actual property.
That's correct.
For our planning purposes for next year, we need to figure out what kind of money we have available to put towards this project.
Correct.
So the idea of putting it out to the steering committee, I don't think we can do first. I think the first piece is how much money do we have available so that then we can kind of.
You as council need to see the
Costs.
itemized list and costs that go along with each of these categories. The options. The next step would be to decide what options you're interested in looking at. And then it can go back out to your focus groups to decide what within those options is preferable.
Okay.
So timing-wise, we're looking at early May to have those options available.
And keep in mind, can you just pull up the picture of the porch,
Yeah.
the full rendering? So keep in mind that this is the rendering that was submitted along with the architectural sketch drawings and the narrative that Chris Stetler wrote for the Monco 2040 grant. That grant money, if received, would be available for use in 2019. So that grant application is happening simultaneously to hopefully give you some source of funding to do one of the major portions of this project. And thank you for expediting that, so we could meet the deadline of the grant.
That was
Yes, we really appreciated
all of these
that.
technical drawings, which is really just a step towards the next phase.
Okay. Rich, can you do the same thing with the community center?
Sure. Sure. So, kind of separated by location. So, an overall theme would be that the HVAC we had studied and is at the end of its life, all of the units. So the way I have them separated here is by location, so they're discrete to what they serve. The program wing kind of stands alone over here, so that would be the structural work, all the finishes, the HVAC unit that goes along with such. One thing I didn't mention earlier was accessing back into that attic, since we're taking away the stairs that are there. So what we're proposing is to build a stair out of that existing utility room up and into the attic. So we won't be losing the attic space, but we will be losing the two narrow stairs there. So that stands alone as a group. And within that, obviously, there's line items. The fitness center, again, by location, stands alone in the middle. That would have an HVAC unit attached to it. Along with the fitness center, I think the common areas that surround it would be appropriate to include in the same number because likely be constructed at the same time. The locker rooms, again, has its own standalone HVAC. Option one would be to totally gut the shower core and redistribute it so the end product is a little better. Option two would be not to tear down walls and redistribute all that plumbing, but to kind of use the fabric that's there. In doing so, you don't get that extra layer of privacy for the showers. Again, we'll get the both prices there. The lobby, self-explanatory a little bit, but that would include also the kitchen and the single restrooms that are over there. So that actually is served from this same unit now, so there's a little bit of cross-pollination here, but that would be the upgrade of the lobby. The multi-purpose room, again, has its own HVAC that stands alone. One of the concerns there was to kind of switch out that windsock to a hard ducted solution, which would be a lot more quiet. Flooring, pads on the wall, and the poke through to the garage would be a line item in there. The main gymnasium, again, the HVAC stands alone there, so that would be a line item. And to replace the exterior openings, the exterior doors are deteriorated basically, so they need to be upgraded. And then exterior, the shingle roofing is kind of at its end of its life. Gutters and downspouts along with the roofing kind of need to be upgraded, certainly on the existing, the old portion of the facility. Refinish the envelope, basically paint the stucco, what that boils down to. And what we didn't speak about in the program was to create a new side entry, so that would be taking out one of the window units and adding back a window unit that has a man door in it. That would help the program wing function potentially for childcare. So these would kind of be the price groupings that we would propose to put in front.
So I have a question on HVAC. So you're proposing them as all separate units for the breakout areas.
Yeah.
If you're looking, and this is a trade question, I guess, if you're looking at doing this in stages, does it make sense to do all HVAC first because of balancing and that whole scenario? Or can you literally break off HVAC upgrades as separates?
It would always make sense to do it all at once.
Right, okay.
But this is a picture of the roof here. So, for example, the gymnasium is a standalone unit. It could be replaced discreetly apart from the others. Again, the unit for the locker room can do the same. So would it make sense to do it all at once? Absolutely. But it could be plug and play.
Jim's not here.
I'm not sure how we'll want to discuss that. We talked about phasing this work. Could the facility operate while the lockers are being worked on, for instance? We think, I'm not sure if we drew a conclusion at the steering committee, but I thought we were leaning towards choose a period of time for kind of a blitz approach to get the things that you have to function, like the locker rooms, perhaps the fitness center area in the middle because it's so central to exiting and the use, and just do those in a period of time when you shut down, literally, some period of time. But then the periphery is like changing the finishes in the HVAC and multi-purpose, doing the lobby perhaps, doing the program areas that Rich calls them, and exterior repairs. Those could be done potentially separately.
But wouldn't HVAC serve as infrastructure, and wouldn't you want infrastructure done first?
Well, yes and no. The thing about this system, this building has got multiple systems, so you really wouldn't have to. Because, for instance, the unit that serves the gymnasium's in the attic over the current fitness center. So when we work that program area up there, that's still where the unit's going to be. You'd want to do both of those at the same time, so you don't want to move the old system twice. So it wouldn't be bad to go in and do all the HVAC in the whole building, but when you do the renovations, there'll still be some work, some duct work, some connections. I'm a little bit inclined to lean towards Rich's approach of program areas, the 7 areas, do a price independently for each area, because these are like 5-ton units that are individually kind of sized and sitting on their own curb.
So one thing that I would say is we would have to look at HVAC for the gymnasium, because we have a problem in there with air condition already. So that's got to be initial, that's got to come first.
There's none in there.
There's none.
There's none
Yeah.
there
Right,
now.
so that would have to come in the first.
No air conditioning
So I
in
get the
gym.
programming piece, but we have no air conditioning in there, so that seems to
So
be
if,
a
for
priority.
instance, when you set priorities, just say you had the ability for next year's budget to do that air conditioning, you could just do that, because it comes out of that attic into that space, change those ducts. My only real criteria, particularly with public work, but really for all of them, is no dollars that we spend do we then tear out in a future phase. That's like absolute no-no. So, that's worse than any inefficiencies of like, well, let's do all 7 units at once. So, like roofing is potentially one of those where you save money by doing them all at once because it's a big contract, do it in the summer, you know. So I think all these answers are kind of gray areas, but I think it's what's in your heart for your priorities. Tell us what they are. We aim for that first. You get your numbers, you do your budget, and then we'll package them that way for you, Stephanie, however you want them packaged.
I mean, this is exciting, and I think you guys have taken all of the input and done a great job with it. The hard part for us right now is there is no funding.
Right.
So there is no dollars.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten any grants, we haven't raised any money. And for us, we've now got the work to do to figure out, okay, what kind of money is available in 2019? Because it's 2 separate projects, and do you put it into one project? Do you divide it into 2 projects? So that's the work that we really are going to need to figure
It
out.
could
Right,
be-
and we
forward.
needed to get this far before we could even start
You need the roadmap.
Right.
to raise money. So for Jane and I, this is
Right.
where, after this part gets finished a little more, we can start doing that, which will help with what we need for,
I'm just setting
I know.
the realistic piece of this is,
Right.
this is great, and that's our future,
Mhm.
but I don't know how long it's gonna take to get to that future.
No.
And that's really where we need
Right.
to start focusing,
Mhm.
now that we have this, and I think this is great.
It is.
So we need those prices as soon as possible.
May 2nd.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want an extra hard copy, Brittany, or do you print it out for everybody, or? Okay, that's the official copy. Okay, good night, everybody, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
That's who we need for.
That's what we do just to start to make it.
So I have a question. I wanted to wait till they left. Where's the money allocated for the old Borough Hall building? The sale of the building? Where is that money sitting now?
That money is currently funding your capital budget for 2018.
All right. I thought that was intended to do these renovations.
It was not. It was earmarked as a capital expenditure, and it is literally funding every project you are completing this year.
We
That's how government works.
we should
Goes in
have,
the general fund.
we should have some upcoming things that should help with that, in the future. So we just have to see how that all plays out also.
And Bob, we needed these plans done before we can even begin to fundraise. You
Right.
can't just go out to people with words, you have to have pictures to show them, so.
I'm in the business, Jane.
Right.
I know how it works.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on the agenda, Ms. Checo?
Ms. McNair, if you come up to the podium. We have budgeted for and are in the process of completing an infrastructure plan, a 5-year plan. Karen has already presented that, the plan logistics to you, timeline. A portion of the plan that is missing, which is crucial, is the storm sewer televising. So we reached out to Karen and asked if she could give us reasoning as to why it's important, why the infrastructure plan would suffer if we were not to do this portion of this project now, and also to give us some options in terms of pricing and professional services that would go along with that. She did, as she always does, her due diligence and provided an estimated cost with professional services estimated costs, and reached out to a few vendors that do this type of work through CoStars specifically, so that we don't have to, it's already publicly bid through the state. We're at the point now where she has received 2 quotes and has a recommendation in terms of moving forward with one company. The original prices that came back were in the ballpark of approximately around $160,000 to complete the storm sewer televising for both the east side and the west side, along with the professional services. In evaluating that and understanding that that's not really fiscally feasible, the main concern in terms of infrastructure is on the east side of town when it comes to storm sewer. And we have generated an opportunity where we would do some in-house viewing of this video to determine, as opposed to utilizing all of professional services, although I know your team would love to do it for us, which it gets it down significantly to around the $100,000 range, as opposed to 160 to 180, depending on the company. So what we are here to discuss, and Karen can go into more detail, is a supplemental appropriation of a not to exceed. And we'll have definitive numbers and a resolution if this is something that you're interested in moving forward with next week on the 21st for potential consideration and approval. So Karen, if you want to just go into more detail.
Thank you. So storm sewer televising is a non-destructive method to tell us what the condition of the existing pipes are. They take a camera on wheels and they put it down your inlets or storm manholes, and they send it through the pipe and they televise. They can tilt the camera so you can really get a 360 view of the pipe and its condition. So it tells us things such as if the pipe joints are broken or disjointed, if your pipe is corroding, if there's any other types of failures. So it really gives us a complete picture of the pipe and its conditions. And it's able to show us how much and where the pipes need to be replaced for this project. So as I had talked a little bit about during my kickoff presentation, what you really don't want to do is pave a road, spend money to fix the road, and then you find that there's a pipe failure right after you've done that. You're then having to go back to the residents and the businesses to serve them again, paying again for repairing the road. So this really will give us a good idea of what needs to get fixed before you're spending that money, and be able to do those improvements beforehand. So as your borough manager said, we were able to obtain a few proposals. There were 4 companies on CoStars that did this work. 2 of them were further out. You would have had to pay for lodging and per diem, so we did not seek proposals from them. The one company did not provide us sufficient answers to even our initial questions, so the proposal that we're recommending tonight is from Trenchless Pipe Solutions out of Westchester. With the CoStars contract plus prevailing wage rates added in, we think we can get them out here for 35 days of work, which could get you around almost 4 miles to 6.5 miles of your storm sewer televised. So we will ask them to focus on the east side, but that could get you a little bit more depending on how many pipes they're able to do in a day. The big time-consuming part is putting the camera in and getting it set up. If they can just run through it a line and just keep going, and there's no problems with the pipe, they can get more done in a day. So they can't tell us beforehand the conditions of the pipe, so they can't tell us how much they can get done, but we can get them out here for 35 days under their contract price and keep the total project cost under $100,000.
Karen, can you explain the difference between storm sewer and videoing that the sewer authority would have completed?
It's the same exact process, except the sewer authority is doing it in the sanitary sewer lines, and we would be doing it in the storm sewer lines.
So just to confirm and clarify, it's not as though the borough is requesting a redundant cost?
Correct. The sewer authority did it in a different utility line.
But the last time we spoke, we had done some years ago.
Right.
And I know because I spoke to Harvey about it many times.
Yes.
Did you find any of them tapes?
I have not found any of the tapes yet, but my understanding is that 4th Avenue has been completed. So if we can get a copy of those tapes, then we would not be doing 4th Avenue again.
Right. They got to be somewhere around.
Yeah, that's, my understanding is they did 4th Avenue because there was an issue on 4th Avenue.
Right. But there was some other, I think there was some other streets we did also.
If they did, we only have paper documentation, we have no video.
I know you don't have it, has anybody called Harvey?
We can call Harvey, we can also call Paul.
Yeah, I'd suggest to call Harvey, he's been doing it, he's been, could be a long conversation, but I think it would be,
If there was videotape in the building, we would have found it. So
Okay.
if there's videotape of any of the lines that were done, they're either on a hard drive somewhere that I'm not aware of, or they're still already made.
okay,
Do you know how long ago it was done?
a couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
2 years ago,
2 years ago.
for the Fourth Avenue, there was an issue with the house, the intermingling of storm sewer and the sewer.
But we had the cave-in down on, the caterers down on Third Avenue.
The Third Avenue was a sinkhole.
Right.
That, there's no video from that incident. They didn't need it, they could literally. drive
Oh, yeah, I
by.
understand that, but that started us in doing the videos.
Yeah, I don't know what the extent was. I do know the part that I was involved in was strictly on Fourth Avenue, and it had to do with the two houses on Fourth Avenue that they had an issue with. So they had to videotape in order to do the enforcement.
So we can track back to the company that was doing it.
We can.
We could
can
probably
do
get
that
the
through
videos,
receipts,
right, the
but
CDs from them.
Who we paid for that. I don't know whether Harvey would know about it. I don't know how they got it. I don't know whether they got it through CoStars. I don't know.
Harvey would definitely know what company he used, and believe me.
But yeah, we will, if we can find it, we can find it. But that's strictly Fourth Avenue.
Right.
It wouldn't be a long run anyway.
Yeah.
Not when you're talking about the extent of what this project would cover.
Thank you.
Any more questions from council? I'm going to assume this is
One more
something.
thing, how many bids did you get?
We received 2 proposals. We asked for 2 proposals out of the 4 companies that were on CoStars for doing this type of work.
What was the difference in prices?
They were very similar in pricing, but we felt that this company was better in their responses, and their pricing was a little bit better when looking at it overall.
Who was the other company?
Utility Services Group.
And we took into effect the per diem.
Yes.
Which was also, use more local so that we're not utilizing funds to just have someone stay
That's fine,
over.
but are we legally okay with getting 2 bids?
Yeah, we are, because we're going through.
CoStars.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at just doing the east side.
The goal would be to complete the east side. The pricing is based off of a time frame. So if the east side was finished and we still had time, we would direct them to the areas that we feel are the most necessary on the west side.
Right.
And that could be accomplished with $100,000.
The goal is to get more confirmed prices over the next couple days, which we are currently working on. We have a much lower ballpark in terms of professional services, and then we would be asking for a not-to-exceed number within a supplemental appropriation.
So, this is very important to do this, okay?
Yes.
Where are we getting the money from?
So that was my
Okay.
next question.
My recommendation would be that you have specific dollars allocated in your capital budget right now that's relevant to grant matching. And my recommendation would be that you take a portion of that figure and you reallocate it to this particular project, because your main goal this year was to develop an infrastructure plan. So we're not looking to tap into reserves. We have 2 grants that we are currently actively applying for. We would still have the funds available to match if we are a recipient of those 2 grants. So
Grants related to the infrastructure plan.
grants related to the Marywood Park House.
Okay.
And a grant related to a public services initiative that would overall help your capital budget as you go down the road.
So we have a little extra in the grant
You would
line
have
item for
some-
match that we
you'd have-
could.
Exactly, you'd have approximately around potentially 50,000 allocated for those 2 grants if you were to receive it. That would give you around $50,000 approximately if you were to get any grant as it related to infrastructure, or $50,000 for anything else that comes over the course of the year. And then you would take that additional $100,000, and instead of taking it from reserves, you would just reallocate it within your capital budget. So it's not, you're not asking for unbudgeted dollars, you're just using it for a different purpose.
So how much can that grow? I mean, this is only a starting point. We could open up a big can of worms here, and it's because we don't know what we're gonna find down there.
Right, but that's part of the point. We don't know what we're gonna find, and I'd like to know before I start recommending that you spend money to pave those roads.
That's right. And we should also think about not spending anything else on any of these other projects we just talked about, till we find out what we can't
Well,
see.
So you're going to, the reason why you're in planning for Marywood Park House, you're in planning for the community center, and you're in planning for the infrastructure plan. So the goal is to get you concrete or somewhat concrete numbers for your budget process, so that you can evaluate and determine what's going to be your priority for 19. So it might be, there are hidden costs with infrastructure, this is a much larger project, and everything else has to take a back seat. It could be it's not, and this is the figure, and this is the funding source, and we can do some financing, in which case there's a pocket of money, whether it's capital expenditures or it's some sort of fundraising, in which case you look at supplementing it with additional projects. But you are going to make those decisions come July, August, September, October, November.
But everybody's got to understand that the infrastructure is the most important thing. Listen, my heart's in community centers and all that, but Karen's right. If we don't do the infrastructure and we put a new road in, and it caves in or something, we're starting all over again. We're throwing our money right down the drain.
Right. The infrastructure in general is going to be a large sum of money that's going to require some sort of financing option, which then puts you into a situation where you have additional debt service. And how you fund that debt service is a question that we're all going to have to answer. However, if we don't do this part of the infrastructure plan, my concern is we're turning over an infrastructure plan for the decision makers that then is missing a step. And it doesn't make any sense to me.
And also, I don't want to keep the meeting going, but very important that we spoke about, and Anita, I saw it on our list, about traffic and tractor and trailers that don't have no routes.
Okay, Bob, can we finish this first, and then it's down next on the agenda?
Okay.
Okay?
But this goes with the infrastructure.
Right, but you're talking about the truck problem. Yes,
Right.
okay. So, am I correct in assuming you need this evening?
I'm
or would prefer?
I need it for the 21st. So tonight we are giving you the options and the information and letting you know that on the 21st there'll be an agenda item that I'm going to be asking you to approve a supplemental appropriation and a resolution that permits us to do that supplemental appropriation. And during the next couple days, because we're back to back with meetings, we'll get as definitive numbers as we can and the actual recommendation of the company in writing.
And the supplemental appropriations will be within the 2018 budget constraints.
Correct.
Not out of any reserves
That's
that
correct.
we currently have. Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is consider approving a fire radio equipment lease with the United Firemen's Relief Association of the Borough of Conshohocken.
Thank you, Madam President. In your packet was an equipment lease that was prepared by my office. It does not differ very far substantively from the prior lease that the Relief Association was awarded from the borough. Again, this is for their radio equipment. The way the lease is structured, it's a 3-year lease, and in essence, the Relief Association takes all responsibility for repair of the equipment, for indemnification to the borough. There is a requirement that they provide proof of insurance in the amount of $300,000 per occurrence, $500,000 in the aggregate. Aside from that, it's relatively straightforward. Exhibit A has all the equipment that we're leasing out to them. Exhibit B is just their acceptance of the equipment because they're being given the equipment in essence as is. And Exhibit C is the insurance coverage requirements. everything is in order and it is appropriate for approval this evening.
Council have any questions?
No.
I would need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is a comprehensive plan task force update with Ms. Sokolowski.
Thank you. Council members, in your Dropbox is the draft copy of the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. It is a 252-page document that the team worked very hard on to pull together. I'm very proud of what the team did in pulling it together. The reason it's in your Dropbox is we are at the last stage of review before we send it off to the Montgomery County Planning Commission and start the advertising and filing it for the community. So we're not looking for large major edits, but we are looking for any feedback that you would have. I would ask you to take time to take a look at the action plans, the goals and objectives. Basically, the way that it's set up is we have a goal in each section, land use, historic, those kinds of things. And then we have an objective that we're looking to accomplish, and within that objective, we have specific action items. The task force team felt very strongly that they wanted to be very detailed in offering action items. So one of the things that we talked about is that we can put the detail in there, but it's still up to the council's discretion at what we actually can and can't accomplish. But we felt very strongly as a team that we wanted to be as specific as possible so that we as current council can follow some type of document in our planning as we move toward in the future, and that we can hand it off to future councils. And that is something that I think has not been done historically, is to really pass the torch and talk to the future councils that this is what the community is looking for. And I think that that is one of the objectives that I'm after, is that there really is a handoff and a rhyme and reason about how we plan what our future strategies are. Another area is priority. The priorities were set up as high term, long term, midterm. And then there's some definitions on what that actually means. Again, that was kind of established by the task force for recommendations for us. As we look through it, we may or may not agree with the length of priority, but they were very specific about some of the high term, short or long term, not long term priorities, but high priorities. So take a look at some of that as we start planning for our future. And then we wanted to make sure that we captured who the responsible entities are that would be working towards these goals and objectives. We will have a more detailed information session that the task force will help present in May and June. So we'll talk about the specifics. The task force will get to express some of their energy around some of the goals and objectives, and I think that you'll find that they really did a very nice job working through each of the items from the information that we gathered from our visioning session, from the national survey that we did for our community, and from the real estate forum. So please take time to take a look at it. There are some obvious edits in the very beginning that Anita and I captured that just need to be reconfigured. It was just a misunderstanding. But take a look, provide your feedback back to Steph, and then CC me so I can kind of see what's going on, and then we can go from there. But I'm very excited about the plan, and I think it's a great document at this point.
Tina, you did a great job as a chair.
Have I read it multiple times? I'm cross-eyed from it.
Yeah.
So dates, just in terms of timeline, on your agenda for next week, we'll be considering authorizing, advertising a hearing to adopt the comprehensive plan. And then, as Tina said, a more in-depth conversation on June 6th. In the meantime, it'll be going out to all the agencies that need to review it.
So based on that, if you really could read it this week, and if you see anything that's glaring, please get it to us, because we've got to get it then updated.
Are you gonna read it at the meeting?
If everybody wants to nap.
Definitely.
Thank you, Tina. Next on our agenda is Ms. Barton with the truck routes for the borough.
Yeah, I had heard from Dan Cassidy, who lives on West 6th, regarding there are no truck signs and how the trucks are not paying attention to the truck signs and no trucks. I also heard from Donna, I believe her name is Potrich, on Spring Mill. She also said that the trucks are coming down Barron Hill Road and onto Hector and come over Elm Street, and there are signs that say no trucks. Unfortunately, she didn't say if they were local deliveries or not. So we're not sure exactly what trucks are coming over where and when. We can't always have our police force out sitting at these no truck signs to catch these people. So we're working on ways of trying to put together a truck route for the borough and possibly, I guess, put it up on our webpage or somehow get it out to
So there
the
is
major truck
so
companies.
per ordinance, there are major truck routes that are already designated. Lieutenant Metz, I don't know if you want to come up and add anything to
Yes,
that
please.
conversation. Just to clarify in terms of process to date, we did have an administrative meeting with Councilmember Barton because it was a concern from some residents in her ward. Mr. Cassidy in particular, we've reached out to, and we are setting up a meeting with him directly so that he can address some of his concerns with us as well. But George, if you can just go over the existing truck routes.
I did this today. I
Thank
did it
you.
myself. if don't-
You had the
Yeah,
pink
take that
highlighter
already.
out.
I can read a list of what's in the ordinance, and you don't get an idea. Anything in pink there, you cannot drive a truck on, which is all the avenues. That's all been adopted by ordinance years ago. Anything in yellow is acceptable for truck. Now, you said trucks coming from Barron Hill that are using Spring Mill, Hector, and Elm.
Right,
Well, they're all truck routes currently.
okay.
Hector and Elm, with the exception of Spring Mill, they're state highways.
Right.
Not all of Hector, but a good portion of it is a state highway. And West Elm Street and Caldwell Lane. There are only avenues, Spring Mill and Caldwell are not state highways, but they're the only borough streets that accept trucks, that are not in the ordinance.
That's right, it's on the truck route.
So when you speak of a truck route, I'm not exactly sure if you want to add additional things to this or signage,
Well,
calling them a truck route. I don't know.
Well, we had talked about putting at the base of that no truck sign for except local deliveries.
And the part of the vehicle code that allows local municipalities to adopt this, because PennDOT's view is they want trucks to be able to use the road in the state, but they let, with some exception, they let local municipalities do this. The section of the vehicle code that has been adopted that use this calls for exemption for local deliveries.
Right.
So they are okay. And, what's a local delivery? I mean, a tractor trailer can deliver, or a truck, anything over, this is 11,000 pounds too. So that's not a very big truck. That's a dually. So anything above 11,000 pounds can use these roads in pink if they want to make a local delivery. And there are some places that have to be serviced, restaurants, stuff like that are serviced by, those short.
Tractor and trailer?
Yeah, tractor trailers.
But if you GPS, if a trucker, a professional trucker GPSs the truck route should come up on their screen to tell them what, because when the trucks were coming to help pump, they had to stay on that truck route. Okay, so, I don't know what's happening. The industrial park on Caldwell Lane, there's a lot of trucks going down 10th Avenue to get to that industrial park because they had the fire down there.
Yeah.
They did the buildings over down there. There's more little shops down there and businesses. So the trucks are going right down 10th Avenue into that industrial area there. And they're going down Brook Road. Okay, they're going through Brook Road through the Carpet Place. So they're going that way and they're going in off at Caldwell Lane. So, I mean, that's where they're only going, the tractor and trailers are going to businesses where there's pretty good business.
And I'm not so sure that Caldwell Lane outside of the borough is not this occurred to me today when I was
I would think
making this
Caldwell Lane
map.
is a truck route right
No,
down.
it is
No, I believe
If you
Plymouth
go to
Township may
Brook,
have
Plymouth
made
Township
that
has a sign
just
there
for
that says
local
no
deliveries
trucks.
only.
Well,
So I think the truckers are getting caught in this loop
Yep.
because of that.
that's right.
Yeah, help me out. Is there some professional organization that
There is. PennDOT, and if you see in the city, you'll see color codes. I don't know if PennDOT puts that out, but there's signs with green, orange signs. And that's what the truckers go by, what the truck routes are.
Okay, so if we have a preferred truck route, we have, those are streets that we have open to trucks.
Yeah.
I don't know how that gets into someone's GPS. Do you?
Well,
I mean,
I'll try to find out, but
Is
if
that
you
through
think
the
about
GIS,
it, if you're
the
coming off
GIS
the
stuff we do?
expressway and you come over the bridge and you get down Old Elm and you get out to Caldwell Lane to get that industrial park, that would be the truck route. Not cut up Fayette Street and down 10th Avenue, whatever,
Right.
you know? So we have to designate them
yeah, I
routes.
agree with you. Trucks should not be on 10th
No, they
Avenue
shouldn't be on 10th
for,
Avenue.
Shouldn't be
unless
on
they have
Sixth,
to
they
be for
shouldn't
a
be
lot
on
of
Fifth.
reasons.
I think what I'm saying is that the signs are on Caldwell, but they're not on Fayette. So if they don't see a truck sign off of Fayette and they turn on to Sixth, they don't know that you can't put a truck there.
Well, every trucker should know they can't go down a small street with a tractor and trailer.
Yeah, but Sixth is wide.
Yeah, 6 is wide.
A lot of them.
So
I'm sorry.
your point is,
Of course they don't
we're
care.
missing signs? I mean,
Yeah, we're
that's
missing-
probably true.
I guess
mean,
that's
we
the-
could do
the si-
a sign survey to see what's
Let me
missing.
find out
So we-
from this company.
You find out about that. I'll do a drive around and see what streets are missing signs. I mean, do we put out the expense of putting up more signs if they're only going to ignore them?
Well, I think that
You know?
this is something, I don't know the plan or how we tackle this, but we may have a potential increase as a result of having a convenience store with
Or a hotel.
24/7 gas. That may be something that will also potentially direct more trucks in that
Tractor,
area.
listen, a tractor and trailer is not gonna come up Fayette Street. These guys they make their money by traveling fast. The only way they're gonna get off the expressway and come up Fayette Street to go to the convenience store or the gas station if they're running out of gas. They wanna go to eat, sleep, and move, and that's what they do.
And again,
They
if
go
we
to
all,
King of Prussia.
if we all remember, the convenience store is not set up to receive tractor trailers, only small trucks.
You ain't gonna
It
get
is the way
many
it's
people,
set
a
up.
tractor and trailer
Yes.
driver to get off the expressway.
They won't fit
To
in
get
the
a
lot.
hoagie, or to get a cup of coffee. He's going to King of Prussia so he can sleep, eat, and do what he has to do. So I wouldn't figure on tractor trailers are coming into town for the convenience store. So we have to find out how this truck route works, because it is on GPSs. If you talk to a professional truck driver, I'll tell you, if he pulls up his GPS, it tells you the truck routes, that he should be traveling on.
Well, I would,
And I'll clarify,
I would imagine the state, if that's the case, I wouldn't know, but if that's the case, these state highways would be indicating that they can, as a truck route, right? If they put in.
Yeah, they would indicate that.
Is that other street Harry?
Yeah, Harry Street is not on the ordinance, and listen, I don't know when this
Oh my
was adopted.
gosh.
I wondered why.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some things going on. There was an Acme that was serviced by tractor trailers in the rear constantly. So
CVS is tractor and trailers.
yeah, and it may have been just a another alternative to get out.
Also.
Yeah, the restaurants.
That's why Sixth
Okay.
Avenue is in
Schools.
such bad shape from them CVS and the Acme. Remember the old Acme there? The tractor and trailers used to go in there? So let me do a little homework and Anita can,
And I'll do mine. We'll get back to you. See what we see.
Oh, well,
find
listen,
out.
I'll help you out.
Okay.
You're the body that decides where they can drive a truck. We just enforce it,
The problem is catching them. You can't be on a street that has no trucks all the time.
Well, I can tell you that we do catch them. And I think it was Colleen, I got a picture forwarded to me
And that was
By-
going to be my,
by Steph about a constituent that
Nice.
sent you a picture of somebody
Awesome.
doing, and I said, I saw that truck stopped yesterday. Sergeant Lennon had that truck stopped on Fayette Street, and I asked him about it, and he goes, yeah, I saw it come up 10th Avenue.
right.
So he stopped him, and he cited him for that. And the guy driving the truck, they were doing a demolition on Springwell Avenue. He even said, I was cutting through. I knew I shouldn't do it, but it was easier for him.
and then
So he got a ticket.
So,
pull the wires down.
Yeah.
But you can't stop every truck. We're not talking about
Yeah,
the small
you
box trucks. We're talking
So-
about.
No, we're
But-
talking
The
about
ordinance
like
is
a
11,000 pounds.
Dewey.
but
It's not much-
on that note, the help from the residents is
Yes.
also greatly appreciated. The resident who took the pictures, I mean, she took them from her window in her house, and they were clear as could be, and they went from her to me to Steph to George to Ray in a matter of probably 2 hours. So everybody was well aware, and it really does help. The residents doing
have to
their
put-
part
yes.
really we do appreciate, and that helps a lot.
And we were supposed to meet with your constituent last week, and the snow fouled it up. And I would like to talk to him. I've never heard from him. I would like
Okay.
to talk to him about exactly what he sees, when he sees it.
Okay,
How often is it?
okay. I'll get with him.
Brittany has also reached out to him again today. So we're working on it.
Okay.
We did have a lot. There seemed to be a route coming up Maple, going up the avenues, and then turning right and going up Fourth. I saw that myself, it's my little spine out of my window. But it does, since we had wires that were taken down as a result of it, but since then, and I don't know what the correlation is, but I don't know if the sign actually even went up, but it's improved, at least I haven't been noticing.
Well, I see tractor trailers on Maple Street all the time because they service the 2 bars,
The
or
bars.
the 3 bars,
And the pizza
the
place.
restaurant. So they're, and what's a local delivery?
Yeah.
All of Maple Street is off the trucks, right? All the avenues are. So he's got to make a turn off of a truck route somewhere, and it would probably be at Elm and Maple. And he would use all of Maple Street, and
All
then
lane.
one of the avenues to,
But if
He
there's
has to use one of the avenues. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
and it seems like it was Fourth for a while, I don't know
It's
now, I
because
guess
it's so
if they're.
wide.
I'm sorry?
It's because it's so wide. It's very wide between Maple and Fayette on 4th Avenue. It's one of the wider
Yeah.
streets. That's why it was, when I lived there centuries ago, it was still the same.
Yeah.
So, that's not going to change. I grew up,
100 years?
yes, and it's pretty close now. But 4th Avenue is much wider than 3rd or 5th, just not 6th. So that's where they turn.
6th is pretty wide.
That's what I said, just
Oh.
not 6th.
So we got to
yes.
come up with some kind of a truck route and try to,
Well,
because it's not
I-
it's not helping our infrastructure either.
Stokely and Barton.
Right, I think you guys set some good footwork for tonight between yourselves and
Okay.
Lieutenant Metz. So then we can let you guys do your thing and we'll revisit it.
Okay.
You get your little projects done and we'll keep moving forward.
No, I'm going for the next 2 days, so don't count on me.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Lieutenant.
you, George.
Thank you, Lieutenant. The next item on our agenda is considering approving Environmental Advisory Committee budget request, which would be with Member Chittino.
Okay, so council members, I am going to pass down to you for consideration of funding for some EAC, the Environmental Advisory Committee initiatives. I had a very exciting meeting with Dominic Rocco and Matt Bridenstine. Bridenstine. So unfortunately, because of the rescheduled meeting, they weren't able to be here. So what I'd like to do is you have 2 pages, and the first sheet gives you a list of what the items are, the approximate cost, and because they weren't here, I wanted them to include the justification to help give you a better idea. They're not, I also want to emphasize that while they are requesting some consideration for this, they do have a lot of potential partnerships, so they're not just looking for us. And they do, the group is obviously volunteer work, and there's a lot of effort, and they have a lot of other partners that have helped them through this. So on their behalf, I'd like to just kind of give you a quick reading of, and then for everyone in the audience. The Conshohocken Environmental Advisory Council is requesting $2,050 in seed money to help get several community projects and educational workshops off the ground. Among the initiatives, the most notable include the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Project, in which we would promote and install rain gardens and barrels, the EAC Kids Club, where children will participate in educational and interactive activities, and an investment in marketing materials to continue garnering community partnership in the Friends of the EAC initiative, which was just founded in January of 2018. So they have a further breakdown of their requests. So the first page that has 10 or so items is now kind of bucketed into 5. So we can look at this and give consideration in somewhat of an a la carte kind of fashion. The biggest, I don't know if I should say bucket or the biggest barrel, is A, the Rain Barrel Program, and they're looking for $950 for that. They are working with other organizations to see what they can do in terms of getting some of the used barrels, ways that they can more efficiently put things together, having converter kits, etc. But they're asking for that particular initiative, $950. Then for marketing materials, flyers, banners, anything to help create more awareness, that is $450. Community events, and that would just be, kind of some signage, just kind of, obviously for $100, where they're not looking for a lot for that. And then conferences, there's various EAC conferences that they can attend. It ranges somewhere around $100 per person. They would be looking for 3 individuals if possible to do that. And then the plugs and the seeds as part of Conshohocken's Tree and Green Up program. They are looking for some native meadows, wildflower mixes, and this is as an alternative to homeowners to use on their property while not conflicting with Conshohocken's grass mowing ordinance. So these are all items for consideration. The justifications are there. I don't really know how we do a next step, if this is something that, I guess, how do we kind of move through this in terms of what other questions council may have and what we can do to help fund.
Do they do any fundraising on their own?
Yes.
Well, there's all good things here,
Yeah. And one, like I said, it was a very exciting meeting, and through our discussion, and I told most of you, which I think is really a pretty cool initiative, is through this, I was explaining to them, or I was telling them about the frequent trips that I take my son and his friends to the Franklin Institute. And there, some of the learning programs that help you to understand what your style of living, what kind of your impact on your ecological footprint on the world. And it was really kind of neat because from that we developed having this junior EAC program. We're calling it a kids club on here, but thinking that is the importance of making sure that generation is really, of course, we need it to come from there as well. And it's even nice to have that generation helping to keep parents even responsible, putting some guilt on them to make sure that they are doing what's right for the environment. So it was a lively discussion. I had a lot of energy behind it, and I think it would certainly behoove us to.
So, on that note and asking for the funding, I know that the Environmental Advisory Committee came before us at the end of last year after the budget was already done.
Correct.
So, with that in mind, our budget for 2018 has been closed. And as we just saw, we're in our first quarter of the budget. We just had to reappropriate money for the streetscapes, for the cameras. It's a wonderful idea. We last week had to turn down the art committee for funding that they requested. We've had to turn down the mayor for funding that he's requested. There are committees and councils every week asking us for money, which is great that there are so many things going on. But I think this sort of process is what has gotten our budget into trouble before. So my suggestion would be, if this is something that council would like to do, that we find this money from somewhere else that we have it appropriated for already and move it without going into capital. So I don't know if you have any suggestions on that.
The first part of it is I do understand, I mean, we certainly, our responsibility is to manage the budget for the borough. In as far as appropriating, because my ask certainly is to accommodate what we could on this, and I think some of these are kind of nominal amounts, and it would be helpful even just in terms of education if we can't do many of these. So in terms of where, I'm going to have to turn to Stephanie to ask where it would be possible that we can appropriate money.
So it was my understanding when they came to present that this 2018 was a planning year for them. And in a planning year, they didn't present it that there would be a need for any dollars. So I would like to continue to look at it as the planning year, and maybe, as you said, part of year one is education. Maybe we could look at the education piece, community events or conferences. But for me, they came, they presented it as an educational year, and that I would be comfortable taking a look at where we can pull some dollars from other line items to maybe support the education piece for our community.
Right.
I would agree with Colleen. I'm not comfortable starting to support, T-shirts, rain barrels, those kinds of things, because first thing that they were very, very specific on is we need to educate everybody on what that is. So I can support the education piece for 2018. The other thing is, based on what Colleen said, from the perspective of the mayor's special events, the art leagues, all the various committees, is as we prepare for our next budget round, we probably need to take into consideration some line items to give these committees some seed money so that they can start that process, which we have not done in the past. So I would recommend that that's something we put on our list to do, and go from there.
So as far as the educational piece and the importance of that is while there are many things that are in the plans and a lot of initiatives that they are eager to take, by going through the education is one way to help them in bringing about more, through the education, bringing about more interest from people. It will help them in fundraising efforts. Through that, you can get more people that will volunteer, and it just helps to keep the whole momentum going. And I think it's really important that we support this. And again, I know that we have a bunch of things out there, but I think if we can at least do, at a minimum, support them in their education process, we'll have made some strides.
Well, one thing I was thinking too, possibly along with being a learning year, is start small. This seems like an ambitious process. We're already in the end of March almost. So possibly pick one or two things and then have them decide what's their priority and maybe talk to council later. But right now, it just seems like we've already had to deny other worthy groups. And, you know, we want everyone not to stand on their own 2 feet, but to see some effort from them with the fundraising and that type of thing first before we commit funds that aren't even available at this point.
So from that, are you saying that you are, at this point, how do you feel about the education piece? Like where I was saying that would...
I think that could work out very well.
Okay, so if we could do that for them, support
So
them-
which items are you picking, though, would be your education pieces?
The conferences?
Yeah, I think if we did the conferences and maybe, the community events.
Right, now,
Those are-
and again, because we're not familiar with this, could we talk about this?
Oh.
I don't want to keep everybody here all night, because Penn State Extension has wonderful programs, very, very inexpensively, if not free.
So, yeah, certainly, I mean,
So
this
that
is,
would be another approach, to see what resources are already out there. It's right in the creamery, it's not very far. And they do all sorts of community-based gardening. I know they have a rain garden process,
Right.
and they even have one for children. So I think,
Right.
have they investigated all the free resources out there for us at this point?
I know that they have done some really extensive outreach, and they're working with neighboring communities, and they're all kind of working with each other. But to answer your question, unfortunately, because of the snow, and they did want to get on our calendar earlier. We've been, as you know, we've been
Right,
so
we've been
busy with
swamped.
other things. So the excitement is there. So I think that just opening this now for our conversation, I agree. It's giving us all an opportunity to learn a little bit more. And if you think, I guess bottom line to kind of sum all of this up, is if we could go with the education and the community events, and then tell me what you would like as far as anything more back from them to show all the different effort that they've already put forth, organizations they've worked with, or what do you, council and mayor, recommend that you want to feel comfortable in funding?
I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow at 6:15.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think before we decide on what we want to fund, we need to probably have a discussion on where we're going to get those funds.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just realized that because we'll talk more about it, because that was one of our ideas that
Right.
we had talked about.
Right.
So.
That's where I did the research with the Penn State Extension.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Every time somebody's coming here, they want money from the borough. They must think the borough is an endless money pit. Then you ask Steph, what can she do? What can she do? How can she help us and all that? What's going to happen is you're not going to have no money, and you know what's going to happen. You're going to start talking about the T word, and then you're going to have all hell break loose in countries.
So again, I'm going to agree with you on that. This year when we...
Let's start slowing down on some of these projects and get one done at a time.
Right.
And then move forward.
Right, which is why when we did the budget,
Get irresponsible
when
with
we
the money.
planned, yes, and when we had our budget meetings
Irresponsible with it.
and planned them, we were all very adamant and understood that this year was going to be a very tight budget because we had to keep things, yes, and to not have to raise taxes, and we did not. But then after the budget is done and we get into the year, council has a tendency to forget. So that's what we're reminding council, that the budget is very tight this year. And we chose that rather than raise taxes. I think that's part of the problem of why our budget is tight, is because we have a tendency during the year for everyone to take something that is near and dear to their heart and say, I want to do this. And council in the past has said, yes, let's do that. So now we need to reel that back and stick to our budget. So if we can definitely find that money that's appropriated from somewhere else, I think that would probably be the way that we would have to do that. So I think we'll probably need to take a break on that and discuss it more and see if we can find the money elsewhere for it.
Can I just, so the EAC is a borough entity. All the members are appointed by council. So I think the EAC sees a partnership where they are fundraising and they are making business, partnerships and plans. But maybe heading into 2019, I think it is important that we show support for one of our entities by having a little bit of seed money. The planning is there and the energy is there. So just knowing going forward, if we could have something in the budget to keep them moving, and knowing that they will also increase on their end the fundraising and the activity, I think that would be a nice compromise.
Right, and so that is what I'm saying. We just need to find somewhere that we have money allotted and take it from there so that we stay on budget. I'm not saying that it's impossible. No one is. We just have to have a discussion maybe during the week and figure out where we can find that money. We have money allotted for a lot of different projects. We have it allotted for Karen's dog park. We have the money for the equipment for the playgrounds, but I think that's pretty much done. And I'm sure we can look and see where we can find something.
Stephanie, do we have any money for trees this year? I know we had money for trees last year.
We had money in capital last year for trees. We do not this year.
Okay.
There
Can we
is.
put those two departments, the tree, shade tree and the EAC together?
I thought that was the one.
We don't have a tree. We don't have
I know,
shade tree.
that's
Yeah,
what
but
I'm
can't we
saying,
put
would
them
you
together?
guys be interested?
So the reality is
We have
this
talked
is-
about shade trees, down the line, but
That'd be
yeah.
a good merger.
It would be.
The reality is this is one of our very first newly revised committees. And they're doing a really nice job at being organized, setting goals and objectives. So we do want to partner with them. The idea of staying to budget. Last year we did not stay to budget, and we said that we were going to do that. But knowing that there probably is some seed money to be a partner this year, to stay true to what they presented as this is an education year, and then to plan for the future, because they're an extension of our local government. They're out there in the community getting some of the stuff done that we can't get done because we're focused on ordinances.
Right, and my concern, and this is the only concern, we are only in our first quarter. So if you remember last year, we had to, Bob, how much did we need for Little League last year that we had to pull? We also,
You mean for all the equipment we did? 10,000, 15,000?
right, and then we had to approve the money for the police department. And all those things, again, come out of capital. So I'm not saying that we can't, it's the first quarter. And last year, every quarter, we had things that had to come out. So we just have to be very careful on how we do it. And I think that we should be able to find it somewhere.
Does the EAC have a 403B for donations?
They do not.
So how are they raising money?
We could establish one, sure.
Could-
We'd probably set it up similar to the way we did the park,
Well, aren't they,
actually.
they participate in the Friends of the EAC? That's
What's that, yeah?
Just what, yeah.
No.
It's not a legal
I was
entity.
thinking of the Friends of.
That's Friends of Country Parks.
Conshohocken, yeah.
So maybe, do you sit on the EAC still?
Yep.
Maybe we could take that back, just, because I'm sitting here thinking, well, I can write a check to that fundraise.
I think as long as we're legal and transparent, I'm sure the committee would be for it.
I could get you a check, but I can't write it to somebody personally.
Right, exactly.
It has to be an organization.
Right. Yeah. We can. If Mike says. Yeah.
Okay. So I think at this point, what we're going to do is go back and figure out what and how we can do it, and look at it again, either next week or 2 weeks, because we'll be here both. Okay?
You got anything to say about your finances and everything? Because she's not a magician. When the money runs out, you can't keep stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
We'll just
Stealing
have to
on
get
it,
a
it's
loan
gonna
from
fall
you,
out.
Ike.
Huh?
We'll
No,
have to
we're
get a
coming
loan
to
from
you. No,
Okay.
we're gonna come to you.
Okay. Does,
God forbid if you get a catastrophe in country and you gotta go on that, and your float fund, suppose one of these roads collapse, like they've been having down Philadelphia. These roads collapse and start stuff. You gotta have
Better
that
knock on
fund to
wood.
take care of stuff like that. Or we get one of these big storms and all these trees or pipes blown out.
One coming
You
next
can't
week.
be taking money out of, what's it called?
We-
think we
I-
took
I
those
know
trees
that,
down.
yes.
We did.
okay.
Yeah, you gotta look ahead.
Okay.
So you had a very, very efficient budget process last year to set you up for fiscal year 2018. I think that there are items that are coming up over the course of the first quarter of 2018 that potentially were not thought of before or were not part of. I don't think we had as much public participation as we do now, which is a good thing. So we keep a running list of any items that need to be considered as part of the budget process for the next fiscal year. This is already on it, just like the mayor said. How do you start structuring potentially something for the next fiscal year? And it's part of a larger budget conversation. So I think that was very well put. I think that from an administrative perspective, it's on our list. And if you need to generate a new line item, then you build that into your overall picture of where you are financially. That's what I got to say about that.
Thank you. And I think overall, in the last 2 years, we've done a great job of refining the budget and having specific goals and addressing them. It always is going to be a work in progress, just like allotting money for mayor events.
We forgot about the mayor.
Well, it's something new, so things we need to think of for the future. Okay. So on that note, does anyone have public comment?
Yes, Mr. Issa?
I do have a question. My name is Teresa Paris.
State your name and address, please.
Teresa Paris, 125 East Third Avenue. I have a question for you. Do we have a line item on your budget for community engagement?
Can't hear you, Therese. What did you say?
Do you have a line item on your budget for community engagement, anything to support community events or anything of that sort?
So we have community events that are budgeted for,
Okay.
but they're actually itemized. So there's a line item that is set with a set dollar figure that then is broken down into what those items actually make a total.
And that's where like the 4th of July events and
That's
things
correct.
come on. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Anyone else have public comment? Mayor Aronson?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you to all the local businesses and organizations that helped out with Irish Week. And after I put this list out, more hit me up. So we ended up with really amazing community involvement. And I think we saw that throughout the week and during the parade. So thank you. It was a really, really fun week. So we hope to keep that going the rest of the year and certainly leading up to next year. And then I also wanted to talk about the beef and beer on Saturday and see if any of you wanted to join Sarah and I. All money is going to the restoration and renovation of St. Matthews. It's going to be 7 o'clock on Saturday. I'm bringing cookies, so it should be really fun, and it seems to be getting a lot of engagement on Facebook. So hopefully it's a big success.
Thank you, Mr. Stokely.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that my address, we got to come up with some kind of a outline for how we're going to get that ordinance. And Mike, maybe we can talk about that when we meet.
Do you mean the numbers on the back
Back
of the
of the
house?
house. Back of the house. Yep, the rear house numbers.
There's a lot that don't have on the front also.
That's a good idea, Bob.
Because after I spoke about this, a gentleman cut his leg cutting a tree down, and he sliced his leg almost off. And they didn't have any addresses on the front of the home, and the ambulance had a problem. So, I mean, it's important.
Okay.
It's important. And number two, I got which probably some people on council don't even know we own it, but we have a property at Harry and Spring Mill. It's a triangle. We bought a long time ago.
It's
Yeah, it's worthless to us.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It's the one that sits up on the hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheapest property.
We park up, the business people rent it off us. So maybe now that the restaurant people and one restaurant person is going to build a new deck on the roof, that maybe he would be interested in buying that lot off us, because it serves no purpose to us.
Do you
It
mean
really
right
doesn't.
next to, not Spams?
Across from
Lucky
the,
Right across from
across the street from
Lucky
Lucky
Dog.
Dog.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we could get probably, I'm not going to tell you what we paid for. It would be nice to, I mean, it serves no purpose to us,
No,
really.
it never
Any
has.
of the restaurants down there,
They could.
Well, they do use it, they pay us. I think
no,
they
I mean,
pay us
maybe.
maybe
more
500
interested.
bucks a month.
They could partner. and
Right,
buy it
Steph?
together.
I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Yeah, you got, I mean, you know about it, right? That we do rent it. Okay,
Maybe we
right?
could have-
And
Maybe
that
we
would
could
be
have
for
Keystone
parking
put a for
for
sale
them?
sign on
Yeah,
it.
they use
Yeah,
it
for
already.
I mean.
Maybe there
one-
would be a way that we could make a condition that when they line up the parking, that where the curbs would be, that maybe they could still have some trees or something?
Not down there.
Well, so that there's something, at least a little green in there.
Your little
There's
green.
down, there's plenty
You
of green
can't-
down.
There's enough green there.
A lot of green there.
What, happened to what? They're
Nothing.
down, there's nothing there now at the parking lot.
They don't even have to pave it.
Across the
The
street.
only
there's all
side is
homes
the big
and
Look, we're
wall.
talking
the
about
big
parking,
wall,
not
the big
trees.
wall there.
So I,
Like going down towards Scrubble Pup Pup.
Yeah.
Bob, can I set up a meeting with you and we can figure out exactly what it is that you're talking about, what
Right.
needs to get done, and then
Yes.
we'll figure it out from there?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Barton,
Are we having an Easter egg hunt?
Yes.
Saturday?
Saturday, the
April
17th.
1st?
It's a Saturday, isn't it?
9:30
Yeah, I'm saying the wrong date.
at
yes.
the
I'm
community
saying
center.
Easter.
Right,
Yes, this Saturday.
because Easter's early. You stole my thunder. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, we actually have our new director of recreation here tonight, so Lauren, do you want to
there
come up
she
and
is.
just give a little time and date? Totally putting you on the spot, so welcome.
Welcome to the team.
Welcome, Lauren.
It's nice to be here tonight. So the Easter egg hunt is this Saturday, March 17th at the community center. Festivities will start at 10, registration starts at 9:30. It will be split up into age groups. The first age group is 0 to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 10. And while the age groups are going, there will be other festivities going on inside the community center. Hope to see some of you there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Lauren.
Thank you for surviving your first couple days also.
I have nothing. I gave my mine
Okay.
earlier.
I was gonna plug the Easter egg hunt.
Ike? Karen?
No, I think we all would probably agree what a success the parade was this year. It was great.
It was great.
We just need to know ahead of time exactly how much candy we have, so that we can know, like, I'll know that we can only have X amount for the first 3 blocks, and
So I told Dell
Yes.
that he has to hide 3 bags of candy and not allow us to take it until we get down to 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
The problem is, though, the adults wanted it.
Tell them no.
The other problem was, I don't know how many of you picked it up, that the children came with bags this year for candy. Like it was Halloween, yes, which didn't help the candy spread all the way down Fayette Street either. So we just have to allot it out better as we go down. So, and on that note, I would like to thank all of the borough crew, the police, the borough administration for all of their, and if I forgot anyone, I'm sorry, for all of their really hard work and participation for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It was great. And council does truly appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, is that it? Meeting adjourned.